Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to cover the newly introduced Cloud Director App Launchpad. It's more of an application marketplace that gets added as an extension to Cloud Director. It's a free extension, so every cloud provider could actually use it. It has a very nice look and feel and give a very simple interface for end customer to use it to deploy prepackaged open source applications. So it actually allows applications to come from different sources, including the Bitnami catalog, which is one of the largest open source prepackaged applications that could be deployed in there. So Bitnami offer over 300 open source prepackaged applications. There's about 126 of them that's compatible to be published into the App Launchpad and Cloud Director today. Yeah, Cloud Director is the new name or the new brand name for vCloud Director. So it just got changed with the release of Cloud Director 10.1, just if you haven't heard yet. I have actually had the instruction in a step-by-step manner in the following blog article, where actually I have shown you how you can install the App Launchpad. And you can get all the steps. I'm going to actually include the link at the bottom of the video as well. All right, so let's get started. Let's take a look at what the App Launchpad look like from an end customer perspective. So let's actually log in as an end user. So here I'm actually logged in as an end tenant to Cloud Director. And let me just go back. So all I have to do as an end tenant, come to the App Launchpad interface after I log in. And let's give it a second and the marketplace will load up for me. So as you can see, I get actually introduced with a nice application marketplace that's given to me. So all this application is actually existing locally at the cloud provider itself. So the cloud provider have pushed those to the marketplace they have or to the catalog they have, and they're serving it locally to their end customers. Now, the cloud provider can control which applications get packaged in each catalog and they get exposed to which tenant as well. The top ribbon here is actually the featured applications. So those applications that the cloud provider think are worth being featured in their catalog. Then you have the rest of applications at the bottom here. As you can see, I have about 10 applications. I did not package any of them. All of these guys came from the Bitnami catalog. I just pushed them to my catalog, as you can see in here. And I'll show you how to push these actually prepackaged application from Bitnami to your App Launchpad, which is great. I mean, rather than starting with a zero application in your vCloud Director or Cloud Director interface as soon as you deploy it, now you can start with 126 ready to deploy and be consumed by your customers, which is nice. And quite a bit of those applications is quite popular and quite useful. So we'll talk about that as we go. One nice thing I like about the catalog itself as well, it's pulled the details of each of those applications from the Bitnami catalog. So if the end user trying to figure out what this application is about and trying to learn more about it, so for example, if you come to the WordPress, you click details, you get introduced about what WordPress is and so on. So, I mean, if you're not familiar with it, it's a blogging platform. And that's basically kind of what it describes it here. Then it tells them what the sizes and specs that are going to be required for the virtual machine, what operating system it's running on, and what version of WordPress this particular application is deploying, which is great. After that, they can actually have hit the launch application from here, or I could actually have launch it from here as well. Whichever way they come to this particular screen here. In this screen, it's nice that actually a customer could deploy one of these applications by only supplying a name to it. So he's just going to give a name for the deployment itself. He does not have to provide any extra information if desired. This actually make it very nice and simple for those customers who just want to have those applications and they don't want to learn or understand how the infrastructure below it is working. A lot of developers or people who want to do a test for one of these platforms care to do that. And this is very nice. And the way this is kind of made available through App Launchpad is actually the cloud provider is provide default settings for those applications. I'll show you that when we do the cloud provider interface. So here I might say WordPress 06 as what I want to call this particular application. I hit launch application, and out of a sudden it will just start deploying in there. You'll see in a second, it'll take me to the interface where it starts deploying. The applications will just show up here in a sec. Let's give it a second here. As you can see, the WordPress application start being deploying, and it will be ready to be used in a few seconds. Now, while that's actually loading, we can look at one of the existing one and what actions we can have. So the actions we can have on it is actually, if it's powered off, we can do power on. If it's powered on, I could power off. If it's powered off as well, I could do delete action. Actually, I'm going to delete a couple of those applications in there just to make sure we have more resources as we deploy, what they call it, the other one. So let me power off the Nginx here because I have two of them already. I don't need this one. So as you can see, I'm powering it off. I just power off the application here. As soon as that's done as well, I could delete it. So I'm just going to wait for that to happen. So now it's actually powered off. I could actually delete that application. So most common kind of requirement or action, let's say, by a simple end customer is in those menus. They don't actually have to learn what's happening in the infrastructure or so on. Now, for more advanced customer or user, they could actually, when they deploy or requested the application, rather than just using the default, I'm going to go through the same the same WordPress, just to show you how the difference wizard could look like. So if I do WordPress 07 or 08, and I actually hit the show details, now all of a sudden, actually, I get extra information I could fill in. So I could decide what organization virtual data center I'm going to deploy it to, what kind of sizing I want to have. And these sizes actually, or t-shirt sizes, is provided by the cloud provider. They can create as well many more flavors or change the settings for those. As a cloud provider, just make sure the smallest setting here would fit, or the default setting that you're going to use would fit most of the applications that you're going to have. Because if the application you have is being deployed using the default setting, as you saw a second ago by just providing the name, if the sizing you chose does not fit those, it will error out and it will say the sizing you chosen does not fit. So make sure your default sizing fit most of the application that's you're deploying. Here you choose the IP address that you're going to assign to the application. Do you want an internal IP or external? You can actually have more advanced setting where you say the network is assigned automatically or manual, what kind of storage profile. You can have some script to be loaded on the first boot. As well, you can actually add some tags in here. So then after that, all you have to do is hit launch app application, and it actually will do exactly the same thing. It will deploy it, and we will have it just here in the interface. Last thing you have in this particular interface is actually if an advanced customer want to see how that look like inside their vCloud Director and how it look like inside their virtual data center, all they have to do is say view in virtual data center. That will take you back, or take the customer back to the virtual data center interface in vCloud Director, and they can actually see the vApp or the VM that's actually supplying that particular package, and they can actually now behave to it just as they would done with any vApp inside vCloud Director. So all the normal interface that you're familiar with. All right, that has as much you get from an end customer, which is quite powerful. I mean, out of a sudden, you're giving 126 applications to your customers. A lot of them is useful applications. So let's actually look at where these applications came from. And let's look at the Bitnami catalog and what applications are there, and how a service provider could publish these applications to their catalog. So for that, I come to the, let's see, to my cloud account on the Bitnami here somewhere. I think I have the tab somewhere here. 1 second, sorry about that. I thought I had the loaded, sorry, it's actually, I needed to get out of this page here. Yeah, so here am I logged into my cloud marketplace for the Bitnami using my account. All I have to do now, do a browse all applications just to see all the application available on the Bitnami catalog. So as I mentioned earlier, Bitnami catalog have over 300 prepackaged applications. in different formats. I mean, some of them is a virtual machine, which is kind of what we need here, or virtual appliance, you could say. Some of them come as a Kubernetes, some of them is a Helm chart, and so on. So it's actually, they have different way they package things. The ones we really care about at the moment is the one packaged as virtual appliances that could be deployed to vCloud Director. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure I'm going to filter the application available to me to just Bitnami here on the right side. And I want just the Bitnami ones that are actually available and could be deployed to vCloud Director. So actually, I could actually go and filter that as well. As you can see, I have 126 different prepackaged applications available to me. I'm going to scroll a little bit here just so you can see, kind of give you a view or a flavor of what's there. So as you can see, there's WordPress, Apache, some Zuma, some Tomcat. Let's see what else. There's MySQL, of course. There's Apache stuff, some Apache, different feature in Apache. There's Ruby. There's RabbitMQ. Actually, funny enough, if you read my tutorial that's I just put in my blog of how to install the App Launchpad, it's actually is RabbitMQ. And the way I did RabbitMQ, rather than actually me going and installing a Linux OS and do RabbitMQ from scratch, I just downloaded the RabbitMQ virtual appliance from the Bitnami, deployed it to my vSphere environment, and just use it. So you can actually use a lot of these images as well outside of vCloud Director for different purposes. I mean, you can even deploy it to VMware Cloud and AWS if you wanted to. So there's plenty of things that very useful. So you can decide which one you want to give to your customer. Like this is PHP, which is a forms that you can do. There's Node.js. There's tons of things that could be useful. So I actually kind of deployed quite a bit of those, as you saw, to my environment. So I'm just going to choose randomly one that I haven't had yet. I believe I haven't got the MongoDB, so I'm going to just add the MongoDB to my catalog. So I'm going to choose it. Here, show me some information about it before I get from there, and what the subscription going to cost me to do that, the different versions available and the formats. You can actually take a bit more information, tech specs and all that stuff. It's there. Now what I'm going to do, of course, you have the option to download it if you just want to push it to your offline, to your vSphere offline environment or so on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it directly to my App Launchpad in vCloud Director. So the button I'm going to click in here is subscribe. Now, as you can see, I could push it directly to on-prem vSphere, VMware Cloud and AWS, or vCloud Director. Of course, the one I'm interested in, what is in here is vCloud Director, so I'm going to choose that. Here, I'm going to choose the version of the application of MongoDB I want to push. So the nice part, Bitnami allow you to actually they always keep a few versions of each applications, because not everyone deploy the latest and greatest version of a product. A lot of time you might deploy one version or two versions behind. So they allow you to do that. So I'm going to choose the latest and greatest in here and just hit next. Here I'm going to have to enter my vCloud Director information. So I'm going to use org. And here I'm going to have to enter the organization name. So this organization name actually was created during the installation of the App Launchpad. So if you followed the tutorial I mentioned earlier, you'd actually see where that got created. So I'm going to list my catalog that was created earlier. As you can see, I have two of them. So I'm going to use the Bitnami 02. That's where I decide I'm going to supply the images to. Then I'll have a summary page. Oh, as you can see, actually, it had warned me that particular version of this application is already published. So actually, let me try an older version. Just I don't want to change the application for now. Let's do that. Let's say, so now it's allowing me to actually publish it. It's saying, do I want to actually have an auto update of this particular image happening? And how many versions behind do I want to have when that's happened? At the moment, I'm not going to turn those on, but it might be an interest for some cloud providers to be able to just have the latest versions available to end customer without having to do much work in there. After that, I'm going to have to accept the ULA agreement. I'm just going to hit accept for now. Feel free to go to that link and accept and read it before you accept if you desire. I'm going to hit finish here. And that's going to go and start subscribing this particular application and push it directly to my vCloud Director App Launchpad. Sounds like I entered the wrong username and password. I have done that often. Let's see if I actually could remember my password for once. Let's say. All right, as you can see, when I entered the right password, things worked okay. So now I say my subscription is done. I could hit check subscription here, just to make sure my subscription is worked correctly and it's working. And it will show me as well the different subscriptions I have from the past. As you can see now, the MongoDB that I actually just subscribed to is added in here. And if I go back and look into the same vCloud Director environment you saw earlier a second ago, so let's log in now as rather than a tenant admin, let's look at a provider or the cloud environment administrator. So I'm going to go to the provider portal in here just to see, just to show you how the application get pushed into there, which is all right. So now I can actually, you can see the MongoDB have already been pushed in here. So the Bitnami kind of was pushed in there. So actually it deleted as well the old one in there. So synchronized the new one. It deleted the old version as requested. So that's have been succeeded. So now if I go to my catalog here, so here actually I could see the different, what do you call it? The different usage of different users and different organizations of what's been used in the catalog. So I could see the different organizations and which one is the top organization user. Here I'm actually having only one organization that consume thing. It's a home lab, but as a service provider, you can see multiple of them. You will see which application is most popular and so on. So very good, nice, easy dashboard in that specification. Access applications. So here actually where you go and publish catalogs to a particular organization. As I have all my catalogs already published to this organization, I'm just going to unpublish one for now. So I could just show you how it gets added. So if, for example, I want actually T1, I want to unpublish the catalog from them so they don't have access, I could just came here, choose the catalog that they had access to originally and remove it from them. So now they lost access specifically. So if I actually go and publish a catalog to them, to any tenant, which is kind of what you really want to do, is actually now the Bitnami 02, if you remember, that's the one where I added my application to through the Bitnami catalog. Now I could decide which tenant I want to add it to. So tenant which already have permission does not show here. So CSE had already been added, and that's kind of how I was doing the demo for you. T1, as you saw, I just revoked their access. That's why I could add it to them now. It asked me to review, and I say publish in there. So now basically T1, if they log in, they could go to the App Launchpad and see whatever in the Bitnami 02 catalog available to them. Here you get some deployment settings. So this is actually where you choose the default deployment per tenant. So this is kind of, you can choose the default virtual data center and things and so on. Maybe I should choose CSA here rather than the T1 because T1 does not have an org BDC in there, so it doesn't share the information. But as you can see, they can actually choose the default, the system provider could choose the default organization's informations like IP and so on that they wanted to get deployed with. And this is actually what make it possible for an end user to deploy with just provide with the intent to just deploy with just providing a virtual machine name or an application name that they want to use, because it actually will revert back to these defaults in here. On the application side here, you can actually say the different application that you have, how many instances running, and which organizations is using them, and how many of them is being used. So it's actually great on that perspective. Here you get some where you actually do the sizing for the templates. If you remember when I did the advanced, it asked me which size I want, small, medium, and large. So that's where these come from. This is where you can modify them. And this is actually where you can set which one is going to be the default one. So just make sure, as I mentioned earlier, whatever you set as a default, make sure it can fit the different application that you're going to allow people to deploy. Because if they do the single click deployment with just providing an application name, it's going to revert to that sizing. And if that sizing does not fit the application size required, it's going to error out. So just make sure that you choose a reasonable size in there for the default one. All right, here's actually where you add the featured application that, if you remember, I showed you the ribbon where it's actually the feature application we're showing. So you can choose what's go into there. Catalog visibility, here you choose if you only want the App Launchpad catalogs to show into that marketplace, or if you want as well other catalogs, which is basically if you actually want to go and publish your own custom application that did not come from Bitnami, then you're going to need to do the all available catalogs. All right, so that's kind of conclude the tutorial or the demo I wanted to show of the system. If you have any question, please put it on the, look at my blog article and just put a comment in there. I'll be happy to respond into that, or maybe put a comment below the video. Thank you very much. Subscribe or like if you like the video as well. That will help it spread. Thank you very much.